Hermes was the sly trickster deity of the Olympian pantheon, a messenger and herald who took pleasure in mischief and used wit and wile to outfox his enemies. God of commerce and luck, patron of travelers, thieves and merchants, and champion of athletes and athletic competitions, Hermes was a witty trickster who often put his own amusements over the interest of the gods. As herald and messenger of the gods, Hermes delivered the news, advice, and commands that maintained order and often sustained their fragile, tumultuous relationship. Hermes could also be unpredictable, however, driven by impish designs and a fondness for sport. Hermes routinely tricked, lied, and in several well-known instances stole from the gods. Like other gods that share the Jungian trickster archetype, Hermes tested norms, challenged conventions, and crossed boundaries. He was neither good nor evil, although he was capable of both. He instead chose to be the figure at the center of things, one who tilted chaotically in one direction or the other according to whim alone, hence his ability to be the patron of both thieves and merchants. Hermes' oscillations between good and evil were mirrored by his ability to move among Olympus, the mortal world, and the underworld. For the ancient Greeks who worshipped him, Hermes represented the disorder and moral relativism they saw in the world. When it comes to etymology, the name Hermes was derived from the ancient Greek herma, meaning a heap of stones used to indicate the boundaries of something. The Greeks also used the word hermai to describe stone pillars adorned with phalluses which were built along roads and dedicated to Hermes. That his name was derived from words associated with roads and thresholds suggests not only his status as a god of travelers, but also his reputation as a trickster who played with boundaries. When it comes to family, Hermes was the son of Zeus and Maia, daughter of the Titan Atlas and the Oceanian nymph Pleione, whose 7 daughters were also known as Pleiades. As was the norm with Greek gods, Hermes had a plethora of lovers and multitudes of children. In line with his commitment to fleeting pleasures, Hermes rarely extended his affairs and seldom had more than one child with any of his partners. He successfully courted Aphrodite with a little help from Zeus, who stole one of her sandals and lured her to Hermes to retrieve it and sired Hermaphroditus, who later in life would merge his body with that of his female lover, thus becoming a single person with both male and female genitalia. In some accounts, Hermes also mated with Dryope, an Arcadian nymph. Together the two had the god-child Pan, a rustic deity associated with shepherds and their flocks. A symbol of both the wild and mountains, Pan was known for his raw and voracious sexuality, unstructured musical improvisation of the shepherd's pipes, and having the horns, legs, and rump of a goat. His peculiar anatomy aside, Pan was much more like his father. Hermes was also known to have taken many male lovers, including Perseus, the famed mortal hero and slayer of the Gorgon Medusa, and Chryses, the priest of Apollo, whose mistreatment at the hands of the Achaeans tempted Apollo into battle outside Troy. When it comes to the origin story, Hermes was born in secret in a dark cave on the slopes of the mountain Cyllene in the Peloponnese. His mother Maia, a nymph and the eldest of the Pleiades, had retreated there in an attempt to avoid contact with the gods. Zeus found her despite her best efforts, and thus began a sexual relationship that culminated with the conception of Hermes. According to the Homeric hymn of Hermes, Muse, sing of Hermes, the son of Zeus and Maia, lord of Cyllene and Arcadia, rich in flocks, the luck-bringing messenger of the immortals whom Maia bore, the rich-dressed nymph, when she was joined in love with Zeus, a shy goddess, for she avoided the company of the blessed gods and lived within a deep, shady cave. There the son of Cronos used to lie with the rich-dressed nymph, unseen by deathless gods and mortal men, at dead of night while sweet sleep should hold white-armed Hera fast. and when the purpose of great Zeus was fixed in heaven, she was delivered, and a notable thing was come to pass. For then she bare a son of many shifts, blandly cunning, a robber, a cattle driver, a bringer of dreams, a watcher by night, a thief of the gates, one who was soon to show. Growing faster than his mother could have expected, the young god-child crept from his mother's embrace and crawled away on the first night after his birth. As he ventured forth into the darkness, Hermes found a turtle. Perceiving all the uses to which it could be put, he scraped its meat from its shell and set reeds into its exposed shield. In so doing, Hermes created the first lyre, an instrument forever associated with ancient Greek culture. Hermes' next stop was the pastures of Thessaly, where his half-brother Apollo kept his herds of cattle. In an early showcase of the mischievous behavior that will come to define him, Hermes made off with Apollo's cattle. Apollo reported the theft to Maia, who hardly believed Hermes could walk, let alone steal a herd of cattle from under the nose of the wise, precipitous Apollo. Nevertheless, she helped Apollo appeal the case to Zeus, who often arbitrated feuds among the gods. Finding Hermes guilty, Zeus ordered the young god to return the cattle. Concerned, Hermes offered Apollo his lyre instead, and offered his half-brother eagerly accepted. So it was that Apollo first took up the lyre, the instrument he would use to become the greatest of all musicians. Hermes, the Deceiver. The most roguish of all gods and goddesses, Hermes was a master of whispers and an inventor of lies. At various occasions, Hermes stole Poseidon's trident, Artemis's arrows, and the girdle of Aphrodite. In some stories, he was credited as the inventor of fire, and in the myths of Pandora, he was said to have filled her infamous pitos, often mistranslated as a jar, with speech and deception. When he did perform heroic deeds, he accomplished such tasks with wit and wile, never brute strength. One famous episode told by Hesiod featured Hermes rescuing Zeus's lover Io from the vengeful designs of Hera and the watchful gaze of Argus. Zeus had fallen for Io, a young mortal priestess of Hera, and in his lust came down from Olympus to ravish her. When Hera found about the affair, she set out to find and punish Io, leading Zeus to transform his young lover into a heifer and hide her within a herd of cattle. Hera discovered the ploy and ordered Argus, a giant with many eyes, to watch the herd until Io relieved herself. On the verge of being bested, Zeus appealed to Hermes for assistance. Flying into action, Hermes distracted the giant by lulling him to sleep with his pipes, whispering charms in his ear, or hypnotizing him with a staff, depending on the version of the story. When the all-seeing giant finally succumbed to slumber, Hermes slayed him with a rock and whisked Io away to safety. The adventure resulted in Hermes earning the title Argiopontes, meaning Slayer of Argus, an epithet that would come to be closely associated with the god. Hermes in the Homeric epics. As the chief herald and messenger of the gods and goddesses, Hermes wielded the enormous power of information. Nowhere was the faculty better exemplified than in the Homeric epics, the Iliad and the Odyssey. In the Iliad, Hermes was among the gods who backed the Achaeans in their fight against the Trojans. His role in the conflict was largely unremarkable. For example, an episode in which he guided King Priam of Troy to the body of his son Hector and allowed him to retrieve it. Hermes had much more to do in the Odyssey, where he used the full measure of his cleverness to deliver Odysseus, his great-grandson, back into the loving embraces of his wife and son. Hermes first visited Odysseus in the island of Aea, where the hero of the Trojan War was being detained by Circe, an enchantress and mischief maker who had turned Odysseus' crewmen into pigs. Hermes informed Odysseus of Circe's treachery and gave him a magical herb called Mori, which Hermes promised would protect him from the sorceress's charms. Thanks to this valuable exchange, Odysseus was able to force Circe to restore his men to human form. Later in the epic, Odysseus again found himself detained, this time by the beautiful nymph Calypso on the island of Ogygia. Hermes came to his aid once more, this time delivering news from Zeus himself. The king of Olympus had ordered Calypso to release Odysseus so that he could continue on his journey home. Seeing she had no choice in the matter, Calypso relented and released Odysseus and his crew. When Odysseus finally returned home to Ithaca, he slayed the opportunistic suitors who, by seeking Penelope's hand in marriage, had sought to usurp Odysseus' role as patriarch of his family. Fittingly, it was Hermes who conveyed their unworthy souls to the Underworld. When it comes to my YouTube channel, Hermes is the personification of it. We'll explore in a cultured and witty manner the depths of the unconscious through Jungian archetypes, psychology and philosophy, while having fun and gaming and learning mythology. Please consider subscribing, like the video and leave a comment on which god we should cover next. Thanks for rebuilding Olympus.